From players clashing with fans in the middle of a round, to hecklers getting instant karma. These are 20 times golfers fought with fans on live TV. And first we start with this crazy one. Why don't you f off? That's not the kind of thing you expect to hear as a player walks off the 18th green. But Ian Poulter wasn't in the mood for golf etiquette anymore. The man was fuming. You could see it in his eyes, jaw clenched, voice raised, his words slicing through the noise like a blade. A fan had pushed him too far, and Poulter, never known for holding back, finally erupted. The fan tried to play it cool, told him to relax. Wrong move. Poulter fired back again, louder this time. It wasn't performative, it wasn't some WWE promo for the cameras. This was real anger. Personal. The kind of anger that doesn't show up unless someone's been poking at you all day. Then came the warning. If it continued, the fan would be removed. No more second chances. Only after all that do you realize this wasn't some back nine meltdown. It happened after the round at the end of the final day at Live Golf Houston 2024. Poulter had just finished walking 18 holes in the Texas heat under pressure, with voices trailing him the whole way. And when he reached the end, someone had the nerve to chirp one last time. But here's the thing. When a guy like Poulter, known for intensity, passion, and Ryder Cup fire, tells you to back off, you probably earned it. All right, on to the next one. So he called out Rory McIlroy's biggest failure, and that's when Rory went crazy. Absolutely no one saw it coming. So what happened? Well, it all went down at the 2025 Players' Championship. Rory was walking down the fairway, focused, dialed in, doing his thing, when someone from the crowd decided to test him. And not just with some random trash talk. The guy was later identified as Luke Potter, a college golfer from the University of Texas. Not exactly a nobody in the golf world. But on that day, he decided to act like a heckler. And not just any heckler, one who brought up the darkest moment of Rory's career. Don't choke like Augusta 2011, Rory. You still see those trees in your sleep? Rory didn't laugh, didn't look amused. At first he tried to ignore it, but Potter kept at it, holding up his phone and recording Rory from just feet away, still mocking that infamous Sunday meltdown at the Masters. That's when Rory snapped. He turned, walked straight toward Potter, and without saying a word, reached out and grabbed the phone right out of his hand. No warning, no hesitation, just took it. Then he turned his back and walked away, leaving Potter standing there like a kid who just got grounded in public. The whole thing was caught on someone else's phone, of course. The clip exploded online within minutes. People argued about who crossed the line. The heckler for bringing up ancient history, or Rory for snatching the phone like a bouncer taking keys from a drunk. So if you think you can poke them without consequences, think again. Which brings us to this next incident. It started with just one voice. One guy in the crowd who thought he was funnier than he really was, but within seconds that voice had every camera pointed at Brooks Koepka, and it nearly triggered one of the most intense face-offs between a pro golfer and a fan in recent memory. It happened at the 2025 PGA Championship. Brooks was grinding through a tough stretch, trying to stay in contention when he pulled his tee shot left on the 17th hole. Nothing unusual, until a fan standing just close enough to be heard decided to take a shot at him. Not about the swing, not about the score. No, this heckler went for the jugular. Should have stayed and lived, Brooks. Easier to win when no one's watching. The words cut through the silence like a slap. You could see it hit Brooks in real time. He stopped, slowly turned toward the gallery, and locked eyes with the guy. Then, without raising his voice, without blinking, he called him out. The gallery went dead quiet. His caddy stiffened. A nearby marshal took a few steps forward, just in case things got out of hand. The fan? Suddenly not so brave. He stayed exactly where he was, arms crossed, not saying another word. For a moment, it looked like Brooks was about to walk over there. And honestly, no one would have stopped him. No punches were thrown. But if looks could kill, that fan wouldn't have made it to the 18th. Next up, things get even weirder. Something snapped. And the next thing you know, Billy Horschel was going against the crowd. No warning, no buildup. Just raw frustration boiling over in front of thousands of fans. The 2024 WM Phoenix Open had already been spiraling into madness. Drunken fans, broken etiquette, and non-stop interruptions had become the norm. But this time, things went too far. On the 11th hole, Billy Horschel was standing with his playing partner, Niccolò Galletti, who was lining up for his second shot. Everyone could feel the moment. Galletti was focused, quiet, dialed in. Except for the fans behind the ropes. A group of spectators kept talking, loudly. Even after being asked to quiet down, they didn't stop. And that's when Horschel turned around and lit them up.
Buddy, when he's over a shot, shut the hell up, man. Come on, you're trying to hit a damn golf shot here.
Cameras caught the moment instantly, and within hours, it was circulating everywhere online. Horschel looked like a man pushed to the edge, not for himself, but for someone else. After the round, he doubled down. He said it wasn't about drama, it was about respect. That fans crossing the line, especially during someone's shot, ruins more than just a moment. It ruins the game. But the real question was never answered. What exactly did those fans say that made Billy blow up like that in the first place? And just when you thought you'd seen it all, here comes this. Something shattered in the trees, loud enough to make the whole gallery turn around. At first, nobody was sure what had happened. But seconds later, all eyes were on John Daly and a completely frozen fan standing in front of him. It was the first round of the 2008 Australian Open at Royal Sydney Golf Club. Daly had just pulled his tee shot into the rough near the 9th hole and was making his way through the trees to find it. He was already irritated, searching for his ball, trying to reset, and that's when a fan got way too close. A man named Brad Clegg stepped in with a camera, not from a distance, not subtle. He held it up just inches from Daly's face and let the flash go off. Daly didn't hesitate. He ripped the camera out of the guy's hands, turned, and smashed it against a tree. No words, no warning. Just a loud crack as the camera exploded into pieces. The fan stood there speechless, and Daly? He simply looked over and said, "You want it back? I'll buy you a new one." Later, he explained that the flash had burned his eyes, and it wouldn't have mattered if he was 10 under. He still would have done the exact same thing. And in a twist only John Daly could pull off, he wasn't punished. Turns out the fan wasn't even supposed to have a camera that close in the first place. So, no fine, no disqualification, and no apology. Just one broken camera and a new chapter in the legend of golf's most unpredictable man. Here we are with number 10 of the list. Just before the putter made contact with the ball, someone yelled from the crowd. It wasn't an accident, it was a deliberate attempt to sabotage his putt, and it nearly turned the green into a battlefield. Max Homa stood over a 5-foot birdie putt on the 17th green at the 2023 BMW Championship. The moment was tense, the stakes high, but Homa looked calm, locked in. Then, right in the middle of his backswing, a voice cut through the silence. "Pull it!" Everyone on the green flinched. The timing couldn't have been worse, but Homa didn't miss. He sank the putt, stepped away from the hole, and immediately turned to confront the heckler. He pointed toward the crowd and called the guy a clown. His caddy, Joe Greiner, joined in. Both of them clearly fed up. It wasn't just about that one moment, it was about what it represented. The fan, it turned out, had placed a $3 bet that Homa would miss. That tiny wager nearly disrupted a professional golf tournament, and Homa made sure it didn't go unnoticed. Later, he spoke about the incident. When fans care more about their bets than the integrity of the competition, things get dangerous fast. He said he was used to pressure. He's not used to being heckled for a $3 payoff. And on that green, in that moment, he proved exactly why betting against Max Homa is never a good idea. Next, number 9. He turned around with a look that shut down the entire gallery. Nobody expected Zach Johnson to lose it like that, but after what he'd just heard, he wasn't letting it slide. It happened during the final round of the 2024 Waste Management Phoenix Open. The scene was typical for Scottsdale. Loud music, beer flying, fans packed into every hole like it was a football game instead of a golf tournament. But as the day went on, something changed. Zach Johnson had been dealing with hecklers all afternoon. Not the funny, harmless stuff. This was different. The comments were sharper, more personal. Fans weren't just chirping about his swing. They were going after him, his Ryder Cup captaincy, his decisions, his entire reputation. And finally, between shots on the back 9, someone said something that made Johnson stop walking. He turned around, took a few steps toward the gallery, and with his voice raised just enough to carry over the crowd, he snapped,
"Oh, don't sir me. Somebody said it. I'm just sick of it. Just shut up."
The fans around him went silent. Everyone could feel the shift. The video of the moment blew up online. And after the round, Johnson didn't back down. He said the tournament had crossed the line. That fan behavior was out of control. And that after more than 2 decades on tour, he'd never seen anything like it. Now this next one, you truly have to see it to believe it. Before the putter could strike the ball, the yelling started. And before anyone could figure out what was happening, ice cubes started flying through the air. Yes, actual ice cubes. Because apparently that was the protest method of choice that day. The 1969 PGA Championship wasn't supposed to be controversial. But somewhere between the competition and the crowd, the entire event started to unravel. Security was light, tensions were high, and then, suddenly, things got ugly. As Nicklaus stood over a putt, demonstrators began yelling from just outside the ropes, trying to throw him off. But they weren't just there for him. The real target was Gary Player. While walking down the fairway, Player was pelted with ice, hurled from the crowd in what would become a defining moment of fan-player conflict in golf history. The protests weren't random. They were tied to the anti-apartheid movement, aimed at calling out South Africa's racist regime, and, by extension, any South African athlete seen as representing it. Whether or not Players supported the system didn't seem to matter to the demonstrators that day. Security was quickly tightened. Tension stayed high for the rest of the tournament, and the incident left a permanent mark on how golf handles crowd control at major events. Coming in at number 7. Someone in the crowd shouted something so disgusting, Rory McIlroy stopped in his tracks. And what he did next had that fan thrown out of the Ryder Cup in front of thousands. The 2016 Ryder Cup at Hazeltine was already intense. US fans had packed the course, waving flags, screaming chants, and letting Team Europe know whose turf they were on. But somewhere between the passion and the pride, things crossed the line. Rory had been getting heckled all day. That's par for the course in a Ryder Cup, sure, but this wasn't lighthearted banter. It was vulgar, repetitive, and by the time he walked off the 7th green, one fan made it especially ugly. Nobody knows exactly what was said, but whatever it was, it snapped something in Rory. He stopped mid-walk, turned around, and pointed the guy out in front of thousands. Rory didn't yell, he didn't throw anything. He just made it clear, that guy needs to go. Course officials stepped in immediately. The fan, still shouting as he was led away, was ejected on the spot, escorted out of the Ryder Cup for taking it way too far. And, to this day, he holds the unofficial record for fastest walk of shame ever broadcast on NBC. Here's number 6. Rickie Fowler spun around mid-swing and pointed straight into the crowd. That's not something you see every day, especially not from him. It was the 3rd round of the 2024 Players' Championship at TPC Sawgrass, and Fowler was right in the middle of his tee shot on the par 5 16th. Focused, steady, until it happened. A sound, short, sharp, and completely out of place. Some said it was a phone notification. Others claimed it was a camera shutter. Whatever it was, it hit at the worst possible time, during Fowler's backswing. And it wasn't like they hadn't been warned. Just moments earlier, Rickie's caddy, Ricky Romano, had politely asked the crowd to silence their devices. But someone didn't listen. Fowler made contact with the ball, but immediately turned, pointed, and shouted, "You! What are you doing?" It clearly rattled him. His drive found the fairway, but everything after that unraveled. 2 shots into the water, a double bogey. A round that had been steady turned into a car crash. He finished with a 76. Let's say even the nicest guy on tour has a breaking point. You've made it to our top 5. One word. That's all it took for the entire gallery to go silent. And just like that, Zach Johnson became the center of the most uncomfortable moment at Augusta in 2024. The 12th hole at the Masters is legendary for beauty, for disaster, and for breaking the hearts of even the best. And on this particular day, it absolutely chewed up Zach Johnson and spit him out. A tee shot into Rays Creek, a chunked pitch, a lip-out putt, and he ended with a triple bogey. Johnson walked off the green with his head down and shoulders tight, and then, just as he passed by the ropes, right near a group of stunned spectators, he shouted something that wasn't exactly family-friendly. Off. Loud, sharp, clear enough to make jaws drop, and more than a few people thought he was yelling it at them. Phones didn't catch the buildup, but they definitely caught the moment. Clips flooded social media, debates sparked, and then Paige Spiranak chimed in. "You can't just scream at patrons at Augusta," she posted. It's not a frat party, it's the Masters. The post exploded, thousands of likes, hundreds of replies. Suddenly, Johnson's outburst wasn't just a one-day story, it was the conversation in golf. Next up, number 4. Nobody expected fists to fly at a PGA Tour event. But when John Daly's ball came screaming into the group ahead, all hell nearly broke loose. It happened in 1994 at the NEC World Series of Golf. Daly, already known for his grip it and rip it style and unpredictable temper, was charging through the final round when things went off the rails. On one particular hole, Daly didn't wait. He launched his shot straight down the fairway, right into the group ahead. That group included pro golfer Jeff Roth, who barely had time to react as Daly's ball came crashing in dangerously close. Now, hitting into a group is one of those unspoken lines you just don't cross in professional golf. But this wasn't just a warning shot. This was reckless. Roth was furious. But before he could even respond, someone else stepped in. His father. That's right, Jeff Roth's dad came storming out like it was a bar fight in slow motion. He marched right up to Daly, and what followed was something straight out of a soap opera. Shouting, shoving, full-blown chaos. And Daly? He didn't exactly de-escalate. He stood his ground, chest out, shouting right back. The PGA Tour slapped Daly with a $13,000 fine and a suspension, citing conduct unbecoming of a professional. But by then, the damage was done. The clip made its rounds, the headlines exploded, and fans suddenly realized something. John Daly doesn't just play golf like a wrecking ball, he brings that same energy to the parking lot too. Sliding into number 3, it wasn't Patrick Reed who threw the first shove, but it sure felt like his entire team was ready for a street fight. At the 2019 President's Cup in Australia, things were already ugly. Reed had been battling more than just the course, fans were relentless. After his infamous rules controversy just a week earlier, he became the villain of the tournament. And the Australian crowd? They were loving every second of it. The jeers were brutal. Every hole, every shot, one fan after another lined up to take their turn. And eventually, someone said the wrong thing to the wrong guy, but it wasn't Reed who reacted. It was his caddy, and his caddy just so happened to be his brother-in-law. Kessler Corain had heard enough. According to him, the fan had been heckling nonstop, following them from hole to hole, trying to get under Reed's skin. And at one point, as they were walking off the green, the guy mouthed off again. Louder, meaner, and right in their face. That's when Kessler turned around and shoved the guy, straight up shoved him. No warning, no words, just hands. Security had to step in. The moment didn't last long, but it was caught on video and spread like wildfire. The PGA responded fast. Kessler was immediately suspended for the final day of the tournament, and Reed had to play without him on the bag. An awkward moment, to say the least. For number 2, we're back in 2022, and Rory McIlroy found himself facing not just a heckling fan, but a piece of technology that seemed straight out of a golf-themed episode of Black Mirror. The setting was the BMW Championship at Wilmington Country Club, Delaware, a tournament that was about to make headlines for reasons nobody could have ever predicted. McIlroy was lining up a crucial shot, his focus locked in despite the jeers of a particularly loud heckler in the gallery. But then, something strange caught his attention on the green. At first glance, it looked like a regular golf ball, but then it moved. Not rolled, but darted across the green, as if possessed by some mischievous spirit. And that's when the truth emerged. This wasn't just a golf ball, it was a remote-controlled golf ball, zipping erratically across the pristine green like a wayward robotic prankster. Somewhere in the crowd, an unseen puppet master held the controls, steering their tiny disruptor with precision aimed at one of the greatest golfers in the world. The ball, apparently programmed for maximum disruption, began following McIlroy around. But Rory wasn't having it. With the crowd watching in complete silence, he made his move. In one quick motion, he lunged for the ball like a hawk going after its prey. Without missing a beat, he turned, marched straight to the nearest lake, and chucked the thing into the water with the kind of frustration that said, "Enough of this nonsense." Last but not least, here's number 1. And we've got a moment where Bryson Dechambeau nearly found himself in a full-blown standoff with a fan, all because of this incident. Bryson Dechambeau might be one of the most polarizing figures in golf, but even his biggest critics had to respect what he did at the 2021 PGA Championship. It was the final round, and the energy was insane. Dechambeau had just walked off the 9th green, heading toward the 10th tee. A long par 5 that played perfectly to his power game. Fans crowded the ropes, all hoping to get a close look at the big hitter. In the middle of the crowd was a young boy, barely tall enough to see over the barrier, eyes wide as his favorite player passed by. Dechambeau tossed a ball in his direction. A quick, kind gesture that should have made the kid's day. But just as the ball was about to reach its target, an older man lunged forward and snatched it right out of the air. The kid froze. His excitement turned into disbelief. And Bryson? He saw the whole thing. He stopped walking and turned back toward the man, eyes locked in. For a second, it looked like he might walk straight into the crowd. The moment got tense. Real tense. The crowd around them went silent. Phones came out. The man, clearly embarrassed, tried to shrug it off, but Bryson didn't budge. After a few long seconds of uncomfortable eye contact and pressure, the guy finally gave in and handed the ball to the boy it was meant for all along. The kid lit up. Bryson gave him a quick nod and kept walking. Hey, before you go, I think you'll really like this one too. Just click that video in the middle. Enjoy!